right, how are you doing? Here's hoping that all is well with you from whatever part of the world you are watching us. Thank you for joining us on this broadcast. My name is Eugene Anangwe. Now, our focus area today on the program is on what we've always been hearing people saying. We need to tell our own stories. And we've had people taking to different platforms to do just that. We have those who do it through audio and visuals. But we are going to focus on those who have chosen to use the books. And we're talking about the business of books. And let me just introduce our panelist on the program, Dr. Jean-Paul Kimonyo, author and a researcher. Thank you for taking time to speak to us on the program.
Thank you, Eugene.
Also with us is Butesi Gasana, founder, Arise Education Rwanda, and she's also a publisher herself. Thank you for joining us on the program.
You're welcome.
And Dolph Banza, who's a visual artist and one of a series of books that he's putting together is just out. It's hot off the press. It's called Paul Book Series, Escape to a Strange Place. Escape to a Strange Place. Right. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. I want to start off with Kimonyo, Dr. Kimonyo, because you've been in this particular industry of book writing for quite some time and also researching. Take us through the process of how one actually gets into the mix of things. Do I just wake up in the morning and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I want to start writing a book? What's the process of getting into this?
Well, it depends. First, me, I'm an academician. I was an academician, so my first book was the transformation of my doctoral thesis in a book. So this is more straightforward. But then there is a second book that I wrote recently that will come out next month, and this was different. This was really something that I wanted to write. How it came up, how the idea came up. The idea came up, first the subject is the history of Rwandan reconstruction process.
Right.
So in 2014, 20 years after the genocide, I looked around and I could see that there was no really book or good articles or anything or even film that really rounded that story. And I felt, no, someone has to tell this story. I'm very pleased to do that. I'm an academician. I also work for the president's office. So I said I had a lot of contact. Part of this story, I lived it. So I decided to write. Yeah.
And that's how it started?
That's how it started, yes.
Right. Gasana, I mean,
Yes.
What's the process like? Because we've had people who say that, I also want to start writing a book. And when you look at the basis where they're coming from, you find that this is just going to be a short-lived kind of a dream. But how do you get into the mix of things and you stick and you stay grounded to that particular journey?
Well, I think Dr. Kimonyo have just said it. The first thing is for you to feel like you have something to do. Because writing is part of the contribution that you want to make to the society. But I think the process is a little bit very complex, especially in our setup. It's complex in a way that we have not been reading. And remember that you cannot just write, without reading. Dr. Kimonyo was saying he's been a researcher, and that has motivated actually for him to be able to put up something. So as a publisher, we normally receive a lot of people who say, I want to write, but when you ask them, why do you want to write and what do you want to write, sometimes they haven't sorted that out. But what we believe is that every person have a story to tell.
Right.
And as long as you have a story to tell, you can be an author.
You can be an author.
But you need to also understand the technical part of, how, the process that the book goes through. Because as a publisher, we receive the manuscripts, then the manuscripts have to be evaluated to see if they're publishable. Then from there, they're edited. Then if there are, illustrations that has to be done, you do that, especially for the children books. Then from there, you have to go through the editorial. That it goes through, back and forth for a long time. It's a long process that has more than maybe 8 to 9 stages before a book is produced, which takes a lot of, and every stage is a technical, very, very technical. You have to have the expertise in that. Right. So it's but the first thing is that you wake up, having a story to tell, and you want to tell it.
And Dolph, for you're a visual artist yourself, and Gasana speaks of that stage where you need to also illustrate some of these things, and you jumped into it.
We are somehow in the same industry.
Yeah.
Children's books, she publishes. I think we've worked together on several projects. But I think my journey into books is recent because I'm a visual artist. So I draw a lot I have a company called Inkstand, so we draw for different people, for different purposes. So we make visuals, graphic design, illustration. But myself, I was lucky enough to access the French Cultural Center when I was a kid, and I read a lot of books and comics. So my thinking is strictly visual. So that's, it came to a moment when I was telling myself that if I could create heroes that are contextual for kids, it will be very beneficial for them, and we can tell our own stories like that. So illustration is very, very appealing to the young readers. So that's why we use it, and it works.
And it is working for you. Dr. Kimonyo, Gasana spoke of the reading culture. Like in our society, we seem not to be people who really read. And so even when you get into this particular kind of business of writing, you're also at the back of your mind, you're wondering, will they read it? Will they go through it? I mean, talk to us a bit about this journey and the transformation from the time you started. How difficult that particular notion or thought that people will not read, or people are not reading as much as they're reading, but you still went ahead to continue writing.
Yeah, it's a kind of sacrifice that you do.
Yeah.
First, as you said, you really had to have a story to tell, and to feel badly about it, that you want it to come out. Rwanda, we have maybe more problem than many other places. I think that in many African countries, but not only in African countries, I think many places people read less and less. But Rwanda, we have a small market first. And second, also, we have a very segmented market along languages. There's some people who read in English, others read in French, and others read in Kinyarwanda. So all of this makes that the problem that you are talking about, that is my book going to be read, is even more serious here. But if you really have a story to tell, you just
go ahead. Do you have to strategize on probably outside markets as you think about your book, when you look at that particular background of the country as far as reading culture is concerned? Have you been able to be pushed to that end?
Me personally, I'm published by international publishers, and I publish in French and in English. But at the same time, normally my books are meant to be read, let's say, internationally, in academia or learned people. But I think for the second book, I tried also to write in a way that could appeal also Rwandans. So there's a kind of a balancing act that you have to make, trying to cater for different segments of readership. And all of this is not easy. But now there's another thing that you have to do also, is to promote your book very heavily. And by promoting is to going on social media, of course, and it's very important, but also to publish extracts of the book, let's say, in newspapers and things like that. Because at the end of the day, what is important is the book, but maybe it's the message of the book. And sometimes the book itself is also a way of putting your idea together. But when you have your idea together, the book is one platform. You can use the content of that book also to be disseminated in other platforms, meaning social media, but also newspapers and things like that.
But we've seen people who have actually had their books, they're in bookshops and other shelves, but they're very, very sealed, securely sealed. Like you should not even, you only open it if you've bought it.
Yes.
Talk to me about how that is dangerous, or, for your book actually going out there for people to read.
I don't mind people reading my book because I don't expect making money from my book as such. It's different than some people maybe that count on the book to pay the expenses. And because of that, my first concern, my first objective is to get the story out. So if you steal the book and read it, I'm very happy.
You have no problem with that. Jesse, I mean, for you, Dr. Kimonyo says confidently and comfortably that he's not in the business of actually making money from his books. But as a publisher, I'm sure you are thinking about your costs. You're thinking about, overhead expenditures, and money is very important for you. Tell us how you align yourself in a way that you're still able to make money, even in a culture or in a situation where the reading culture is still not that as high as most people would wish it to be like?
Well, he said it, passion, because he's writing because he's very passionate. You know, there's this big man that one day said that if you write for money, you never get money, but if you write for people, you will always have money. So I think that is the concept, that every author, before you publish a book, you should have. Dolph said that when he was thinking about this book, he was looking at a character the children would love. That is where it starts. And when you start doing that thing that you love, it would definitely make money. But let me come back to what he was saying. This is one of the prime authors that we have in Rwanda. And he's doing it not to make money. But I'm very sure the publishing house that published him is up to making money.
Yeah.
You know, they want to make money through his book.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that we should know is that publishing, every person that has ever entered into publishing have not gone there purposely for money.
Yeah.
Publishing is a social business, so it is out of the passion. And if you called any publisher today that is here, especially in Africa, they're doing it for passion, to make sure that they get the books out there.
But let's be realistic, Tessie. I mean, someone would be wondering and saying, you cannot eat passion.
Yes.
You really need to actually pay your bills.
Yes.
And so you're just being diplomatic and just want to look nice in saying that we're just doing this for passion. But how do you want to tell us that there's nowhere where you think about how do I make returns on this?
You do, because you have to think about it. Otherwise, the publishing house will shut down.
Yeah, yeah.
You will have to look, during the editing period of a book, there are so many things that are considered. I'm very sure that Dr. Kimonyo went through that. The editor will tell you, if we use this title, we are not going to sell. If this title comes out like this, it will not sell. You have, you know, the blurb. You talked about the book that is sealed.
Yeah.
Normally, a book is not supposed to read through when you find it in the bookshop. You have to turn behind. There's a blurb that talks about what is in the inside of the book. And that is like, you know, a small presentation of what you will get into the book. And that one should motivate you, because the way the blurb is written is to give you a whole concept of what the book talks about.
Yeah.
And then you will make a decision to buy it or not to buy it. So it's books make money. If you talk about, you know, a house like Penguin House, Random House, they make more than 2 billion, you know, every year in returns. They are the biggest publishing houses for the, you know, commercial market. How? They make money through selling books. So publishers have to do a lot of intensification on marketing, not only on social media, but bringing the author to the public. You know, organizing talk shows in universities where that book is supposed to be launched, launching books and all that. So those are some of the things that happen that make people to be motivated to buy the books. But also the culture of reading, especially in Rwanda. If you are a publisher and you are an author and you're not concerned with driving initiatives that will help the people to understand the importance of reading, then you will run out of business.
You'll run out of business. Before I bring back Dr. Kimonyo, Dolph, I want to come to you. The two of them seemingly danced around the issue of the money.
Of the money, yes.
You, while you're putting together your series of this particular book that is just out, check content, check illustration, money. Was that
the thing is, I think I am lucky to be working in an industry that the creative industry that is not far from the publishing anyway. So we work for people who make books, maybe for educational purposes or behavior change. So, but I don't want to be stuck in a profession that I spend the whole of my time making things for communicating for others. So I have this urge to communicate myself. I have a lot of imagination. I want to create stories and fantasies and stuff. You know, I want to. It's so rewarding when you see a kid holding your book like this. You see, there is like something in the eyes. You just feel good. I feel motivated by that. So I'm thinking about stories that I can create somehow the reward comes back in a different form. But money is crucial. Of course, I do understand. But let's say Paul Book is starting. We have no idea how it's going to be. We are trying to communicate and to promote it. And hopefully, if it works, the series will go on. But for now, interest, we have to forget. Since we need 2, 3, 4, 5, you know.
Dr. Paul, talk to me about that. Do you see that as a problem for upcoming authors? And because it's just like a business. When you're starting a business, a serious business, and you want to go to the banks to actually finance you, you need to have a strategic plan, a business plan that is actually going to highlight how you plan to get returns of investment. But Paul says that, Dolph says that for us, we're just seeing. If it works, then we can be able to move to the next series. If it doesn't work, then we'll say at least we did try. Is that dangerous for upcoming authors?
Yes, I think it is in certain ways. But before that, he said something. He said also something else. He said that maybe the big rewarding is when you meet your reader who comes and tell you, oh, I read your book, I liked it, or I don't agree with this or this, and have a conversation about your book.
Yeah.
So this person took the time to maybe to get the book and to read it.
Yeah.
So it's very important, meaning that that objective of getting your story out is getting achieved. But now regarding money, I think that maybe only in very specific circumstances that you have kind of a book that is very, very, very popular, novel, things like that. But all over the world, books are not getting that much money, at least for the author. It's different from the publisher, because the publisher, anyway, the contract they give us is not contract.
I agree with you on that.
So publisher get a bit of money, I think, but author much less. So I think that from the writer point of view, a book, even business-wise, has to be part of another business. Cannot stand alone. Cannot just a book will sustain you. No, it has to be part of another business. And it is.
What would be an ideal example of that line that you just said now?
For example, for me, my books, although they're not read by many people, but they give you reputation. People invite you, give you, for example, for a very long time I was working as a consultant. And one of my selling points is I wrote this book and this book. You know? So it gives you a certain stature even in society. So there's many things that are beyond money that come from writing a book, especially if let's say the book are appreciated. But now even for money also, there is a bit of money that you can do. Although I'm saying all of this, one of my book, the most difficult to read, a very, very big book like that on the genocide, on the history of genocide, is maybe one of the books that is the most sold in Rwanda. But I sell it in very particular places. It's at the Genocide Memorial. And I get at least one book every day bought. Every day.
And at how much?
I sell them 20,000 francs.
Yeah.
So that I received, and I have a special agreement with my publisher, who gave me the book for $5. And if you put transport, because they come from America, about $5 also per book, meaning that $10 for a book, and I get $10 per book, which is not bad.
And that's every day?
Every day.
$10 every day?
$10.
That's $10 a day.
Tessie, talk to me, because if there was someone watching us and they were torn between becoming a publisher or an author, when Dr. Kimonyo was speaking, they may have jumped on your side, because he said that the publishers seem to be actually making more money than us, the authors. What is the strategy here? How do you remain sustainable in terms of financially sustainable in your business as a publisher?
Well, I think it's one, being an author is the easiest thing to do. Let me be honest.
You sure?
Yes. Being an author is the easiest thing to do, because
being an author is the easiest.
Yes,
that's what you said.
Because once you have your idea,
Yeah.
you can still be working as a journalist, and you present your manuscript to the publisher for him or her to start the journey of making it a book. So it becomes a little bit easier in terms of investment because the author might not need to, you don't pay any single coin apart from presenting your manuscript.
Is this true?
I don't know. I don't agree at all.
You don't agree?
You know the time that you take to write a book? Yeah. And during that time that you are writing, you are supposed to
Research as well.
do
To
research
research,
and writing and things like
I
that.
think intellectual investment
Intellectual
is the most,
investment
Yes, but not
is
the
the
most
most
valuable.
expensive.
It's not only
Yes.
technical investment, it's also a question of time.
research.
Because the time that it takes for you to write a book, you are not doing other things that could
Yes,
bring you
yes,
more money.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not that
What
easy.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
say, it is, there's an intellectual investment that you're making, which doesn't require you to go to the bank and you ask for a loan. That is what I'm trying to say. You're not going to go to the bank to ask for a loan and tell the bank that, oh, I have an idea and I want to publish it, give me money. So the kind of resources that the author has is it's inside him. It's a package that you have. It is things that you want to put out there. But a publisher is a business. The way you have to wake up in the morning, register, and then start doing business, write business proposals and all that. Why am I saying that being an author is the easiest? It's because I am also an author. I author children's books. But what I'm trying to say, it's not because the intellectual property or the intellectual investment is the cheapest, but it is the easiest to get once you have set it in your mind that you can do. I know that Dolph has been working on so many other projects as you worked on Paul, because you have to continue working things that will bring you money, but you still have your dream of Paul.
Yes.
So you will have to spend sleepless nights, like he said. You have to do some research.
But in terms of the hard cash
but
that is
in
needed?
terms of hard cash, that is where the publisher now comes in, because he will have to do the hard cash. He will have to pay the editors. He will have to pay the proofreaders. He will have to pay the designers. He will have to have the machines and the softwares in press for him to be able to do that book. So I'm talking about hard cash that you need for the book to get out.
Right.
So to me,
At this point, Doctor, you agree?
More or less. It depends,
50-50.
yeah, it depends also of the book, because if it's a really serious book that requires a lot of time, that time also has to be remunerated in certain ways.
Right.
So, yeah.
And so the question now is, how do you now remain in business? How do you
It's
ensure
like
that...
any other business.
Yeah.
It's like any other business. If someone decided to wake up and start a publishing house, it's the way someone would wake up and start a fashion house, You have to think really about which kind of books are you going. You have to study the market. You have to segment the market. He said it. We have the French reading, we have the Kinyarwanda, we have the English, and now we have the Swahili. A few people who want novels in Swahili. And all these people are demanding. Before I went into publishing, I had a bookshop, and therefore it helped me. For the last 5 years, I have seen the buying trends of how someone comes in and is like, can you give me a historical book on Rwanda, but in English? You would just feel like, okay, first of all, the people who can write that historical book might not have English as a language, so they would have to write in Kinyarwanda. So we have all these things that people keep asking for.
And it helped you in knowing...
Yes, in knowing
exactly is
which
the
market.
best.
And that is why when we started with the children.
Yeah.
Because children, their books, I won't say that they're the easiest to make, but if you took Dr. Kimonyo now to Ikirezi bookshop, him as a researcher, he might buy a book. But if I took you, the first thing you do is to buy for your daughter a book before you buy for yourself. Because parents want
Unfortunately, I'm buying for my children, they're buying for me.
Yes, but that is because you are an author. If Dolph went into somewhere and found a very beautiful book, he will buy it, but not to the 90% of the population of Rwanda, at least.
Right.
That is, we are talking about the 10%, who can, enter. And we started with the book. So every time you're doing a business of publishing, you need to also look at the money. You need to also look at how am I going to make money? Because there are those books that you will publish, like Dr. Kimonyo said, which you don't expect to have returns in less than 3 years.
Yeah.
But this publishing house has to be continuing to work.
Yeah, on a
So
day-to-day
you
basis,
demystify your product.
Yeah.
You decide on which catalog that you want to create. You say, if I created a textbook, for example, you know that you're going to make losses because the government is going to buy if they have decided to be the publishers of themselves. So you have to look at the product catalog, and therefore I would say that publishing for fun in Rwanda is still very limited in terms of making money. The way Dr. Kimonyo want to really put out these researches and all that, that is still, because how many researchers will buy that book? A research book, for example, scientific research on, something academic. The students in university will not buy, maybe 2 university lecturers will buy. But if you wrote maybe a book on entrepreneurship, you're lucky that maybe you're very sure that at least 100 people will buy that book. So it's a way of studying the market and understanding what you have.
I think
and as you come in, Dolph, I want you to also add or supplement that particular statement that you want to give by answering this particular question, because she brings a very important point, and that is the aspect of market research.
Yes.
If you're jumping into this market of writing books and publishing books, you need to have some statistics, some scientific research that has been done.
Yes.
Is this what you've also done, and how difficult, how easy is it for anybody jumping into this to get this information?
Yes, I think my publisher knows more about this because Imagine they are the ones who conduct researches and know. For now, we can say that we are selling book to wealthy people because they are even in English. So we have not yet reached a level where we can put Paul book in Kinyarwanda because we are not sure how it will be sold. So children books which are, let's say, distributed in Rwanda they benefit from government or non-profit subsidies. So, and these ones, they are, let's say, strictly academic. So it's a command from the ministry or an NGO, and then they put them in class, and then they give them out for free or for a symbolic cost. So Paul book is a different adventure, or let's say what Imagine is doing as a publishing house is a different adventure, because these books don't necessarily have to be academic. These are fantasy stories we want to do. Paul book is basically going to be explaining different things. It could be science things or art. So in this one, Paul book is trying to understand how a book is made. So it's a book about how a book is made. So this is like, from my personal experience, meeting people, especially children, and asking me, how do you do this? Which tools you use? Because they see the prints are fine, everything, and they are trying to understand how I can use the tools they themselves use to come up with this. And then I got the idea of kind of putting that in a book and explain. So this is like a personal idea. No one will subsidize this. So we are trying this new kind of publishing to see how people react. But so far, it's been working because Imagine we exist, and this is not my first book. So we are trying to create a culture.
You're creating that particular culture. Dr. Kimonyo, talk to us a bit about the importance of doing market research before you even decide, do I write for children? Do I write for researchers? Do I write for politicians? Who do I write for? I mean, what is the significance of this, and how do we even go about it?
Yes, as I told you, my situation is a bit particular. I'm a researcher, I write serious book. But at the same time, I think that at least in our market, strangely enough, I think a serious book also have maybe a big share of the market. Because people who buy book, there's also an issue of purchasing power. People who are able to buy books, most often are highly educated, and they are interested by serious book. So I would say myself that I don't complain much. My books are written, are read and bought. But I really commend my friends here to go in this industry in Rwanda, because it's not easy. And as I told you, I'm in the business of writing books, but I'm not expecting much for sustain myself with that. And I think at least the publisher should sustain itself. So the issue of market, market research is important. As I told you in the beginning, we have a very small market. The country is small. The readership is small. The potential readership is small, and is segmented along
the
languages.
Right.
So what I do myself, I publish both in French and English. So my book, I write them. Normally, I write them first in French, and then I have them translated in English, just to make sure that I try to reach as many people as possible. For the second book that I'm going to publish soon, I'm even going to make a shortened translation in Kinyarwanda. Yeah, to make sure that really the story goes out.
Your net
yes,
wider.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a very short break, but of course, when we come back, we move this conversation forward. The publishing, the book that is coming up next month will not be the first book in the world. We have people writing, people who have even more influence out there. Your book and you getting into the industry, you're not the first one. We still have people coming in. The question that I'll be asking when we come back from the break is, how do you ensure that your book stands out from the rest? All right? So do stay with us, and of course we'll be coming back to carry this particular conversation forward. We thank you for being a part of it. Keep talking to us. See you after the break. Right, thank you so much for still being with us. And of course, we are talking the business of books, just trying to understand what it takes and how the issue of the reading culture is actually affecting this particular situation. And if you're planning to get into writing books, this is that particular conversation that you need to be following keenly. And we have none other than Dr. Paul Kimonyo. We also have Mutesi, who's here with us, and Doth, who's also with us here in the program. Before and for the break, we've been actually asking ourselves as well, how do you stand out? Because there are millions of authors out there every day. Probably this is their sole business, core business of just writing. And when you go to these bookshops, you have an assortment of people to actually read. But how do you make that particular person who walks into this bookshop just walk straight to the counter and say, I want Dr. Jean-Paul Kimonyo's book and not any other book? What would be the secret here?
It's normally I should not be the one saying no, not only that, but also things I'm going to say. Maybe I should not be the one saying it.
Yes,
but one of the things and one of the maybe conditions for me to write a book is it has to be of excellent quality. It has to be of excellent quality.
But someone will tell you quality is relative. So what is quality?
Quality is not that relative. There is a number of people could agree that a book, let's say, has international standards, and that's one of my first concerns. If I write something, it has to be of international standards and very good, and especially because I'm writing more on Rwandan history and political processes, it has to be among books that are written on Rwanda politics and history. Really a very good book. And that's why I say that maybe I should not be the one saying that. Yes. But at least for the first one that came out on the history of genocide, it seems that it has become a kind of book of reference of the genocide in Rwanda. So I have that concern.
Right.
Really that concern for me is extremely important. Right. Not only writing, but writing as good as I can.
Right, as good as you can. If you have an upcoming author watching us tonight, or even one who's been in the business, but they feel that their powers are actually just diminishing day by day as a publisher, what sort of tricks, what sort of tips that you'd be giving them so that they are able to stand out when they write what they write? Well,
tip number one, Dr. Kimonyo had said it. You have to know that if you're writing, for example, a book on God. Everybody has written about God. So what makes your book different? Quality. You have to think about a unique way of presenting your idea in a more appetizing way. You know, I always tell people that going into a bookshop is like going into, you know, a restaurant where everything is, you know, served, and you have to make a choice of whether you take cappuccino or mocha or whatever. And also, you choose among all those restaurants, and you move from Bourbon to, you know, Java to everywhere, depending on how they give you the good services. So I think every author should know that writing is not just waking up in the morning and feeling like, oh, I have a good idea, and I am putting it out there. In as much as that is the first step that you have to take in writing a book, but you need to think about quality and the kind of idea that you want to put there. But also, you need to make sure that you work with your publisher to be able to get the best of the best editors, because editors can kill your book or make your book.
So editors...
Editor is very, very important, because some editors will over-edit your book and remove all the content, and you remain with an empty skeleton book.
And an editor will say, I am the editor here.
Yes.
So how do you then control that as a
You
publisher?
control it because, first of all, the editor did not come up with that book. The idea is basically Dr. Kimonyo's idea. You know, it's Mutesi's idea, it's Dolph's idea. And you have to protect that idea, because that is what distinguishes you out of all the other ideas that any other person could have written about that subject. For example, when Dr. Kimonyo was talking about how he started writing, he talked about, you know, seeing genocide and seeing the history and looking at all these things. There's so many people who have written books on genocide, but his perspective is totally different. Yeah, you know, the perspective of another Rwandan who lived as a genocide survivor is totally different from what he's going to write, because he's writing as a researcher. His approach is that, you know, in that research area, making sure that he puts out, you know, what the government is talking about, what maybe, you know, what happened, you know. So I think the quality, but also trying to make sure that when you're coming up with this idea, you look for the uniqueness of the idea. You know, dig inside, read, like I said. You know, someone was telling me that he wanted to write a certain book, and I told him, you need to read 14 books. And I gave him a list of the 14 books that he needs to read, because his idea was a little bit similar to any of the 14 books. But for him to make sure that it becomes the 15th book in the 14th book, he has to make sure that he reads all the 14 books and brings them together. You don't wake up in the morning, read one book and become an author.
Right.
You'll be a wrong
That's
author.
powerful. Dolph.
Yes, graphic books, novels, or comics are kind of particular.
Yeah.
It's what matters is how you structure your story, because you need a perspective that is going to be interesting, that is going to be kind of challenging to the readers, and you need to create suspense, but most of all, you need to communicate an idea. So particularly, I am very art and science kind of guy, so I go from an idea. So in this particular issue, I go from how do you make a book. So it's a kind of topic you don't get in a school kind of setting.
Yeah.
You don't really learn how to make a book at school. So how do you make a book? So like every child who has touched a book has somehow thought
How did they make
how it could be made. So, and from that idea, I just need to structure how I want to tell it. I could tell it technically, and then it's going to be too academic, too technical, kind of not easy to read. So I take a perspective of storytelling. In this particular story, maybe it's something I should not reveal, but the whole thing's happen in a dream. So happening in a dream, I can allow myself to have giants. You can fall into a cup of water and swim into it, you see. But in the end, you end up discovering something very important. So the second one, Paul book is going to explore color. So we live in a colorful world. We don't even think about it. But as an artist, knowing what color means to life, I want to kind of challenge people and say, what if the world was black and white? Would you eat as much as you eat when you have colorful food? Because color has a big influence on your psychic when you are eating. So I want to explore that color world in a child's perspective.
Right.
Yes.
So this is what makes you stand out.
Yes,
and
it's
someone
also
walks in
that,
and
because
says,
and that's why we are publishing with let's say a particular publisher who is Imaginary. I think they are among the few who can understand these kind of ideas because they are kind of revolutionary.
Yeah,
Yes.
I see Jessie looking at you and she says, but I'm also seated here. We can also do that. And this brings me to that kind of question. This brings me to the question. Dr. Kimonyo, respectfully, you have your own reasons which is very important to yourself as to why you decide to work with international publishers to actually publish you. I want to read your thoughts on why, if it's okay for you, and what can we do so that they match that particular standard and you come and knock onto her door and say, hey, I want you to publish me today?
First, because of the kind of field that I'm writing in. It's history, political science. And if you want to make it the best as you can, you go for international standards. And another thing also...
And they'll argue and say, but we are promoting Made in Rwanda. Come on.
No, I'm going to come to that.
Yeah.
But also, Made in Rwanda, it's written in Rwanda, by the way. And already to have that perspective that Tessie talked about before, when I talked about quality, she also talked about the perspective. The perspective is very, very important. And this perspective, to be able to share this perspective with an international audience is extremely important. When you open the show by saying that we should tell our story, but that's how I try to do, but not only in Rwanda, but also all over the world. And by the way, these books that are produced, let's say, outside Rwanda, at the end of the day, also are read and sold in Rwanda. But as you said, I also need to make maybe something more, let's say, situated in Rwanda as such. And for that, as I told you, for my second book, I want to translate it in Kinyarwanda. And for the translation in Kinyarwanda and all the production of the book, certainly I'm going to discuss with Mutesi or other people and try to see how I can do it here.
And so, Tessie, what would it take for you to, convince even an international author to actually publish them? What is it that is actually needed? And do you feel that you have what it takes, but people just decide to bypass you and go out there?
Well, I think I won't sit here and actually say that I have what it takes. But I would not also say that I don't have what it takes. It's about our history. When did the publishing even exist in Rwanda? When did it start to be called a publishing industry? It started when the government of Rwanda was buying textbooks, and everybody, the Kenyans, the Ugandan companies came in and took over the market of textbook. And we are actually, when we are talking about publishing, to me, whatever we have been discussing here, we are talking about the general publishing, not necessarily the textbook. So I think Kimonyo said it. If there's some, he said that Imaginary is publishing. Every business, every publishing house have got a niche market. They have a specific interest that they want to publish. And I think when authors go, they should also look at that. There are people who are focusing on children, the people who want to focus on literature and African literature, the people who want to focus on research. And you have to make sure that when you're meeting a publisher, you know exactly the kind of person that is doing what you want or what you're dreaming to do as an author. I think you need also to do that research and go there. So why? Because the kind of research that he is publishing is a high-level research. And I don't want to be like any other person who have always said that, publishing is easy. Publishing is not easy. It's a profession. that you get trained in. Editors have to be trained. They must have edited so many people. They must have, handled a lot of manuscripts for a long time to have the expertise to be able to produce a very quality book. And that is why even today, if you saw the books that we have in the market, I'm not saying that they are bad, but I'm trying to say that the kind of books that we have that are written in Kinyarwanda, if we were to put it in the, at the international standard, maybe they will be lacking. Not because we are lacking, but because that is at the level that we are when it comes to publishing. So I think we need to understand that publishing industry is a very big industry. We are still, struggling with the policies to be put in place. We are still into the process of having even the book policy approved and, run. And once you don't have that policy, you don't control the books. Kimonyo's book will be, duplicated and put in the market and photocopied and everybody will read it, but it will not be read in the context that he wanted to present it, because there's also that presentation of your book, how you want someone to hold your book. It's like your baby. Imagine if you found your baby, dumped in a street, you would feel hurt. So I'm very sure that Dr. Kimonyo wouldn't want, in as much as he wants people to read it, he doesn't want to go in a photocopying machine and find people are photocopying his book, And for that to happen, we need standards. We need the policy to be out. And the standardization of that policy will determine whether Dr. Kimonyo and any other person, even Mutesi who is publishing, are you following the standards of publication? Because publishing has management, has a way that it is supposed to be managed versus the standards,
Right.
We are talking of made in Rwanda. If we have to produce a book that is made in Rwanda and goes to the international market, right now we are very lucky. The book sector for children is a little bit stabilizing because there's a lot of interests that have been developed around by the government, by international NGOs, and right now we can go to the international market. But still, we still have our books in Kinyarwanda. Good quality children books that we have are still in Kinyarwanda. Right now, publishers are still thinking of, they have started to think about putting them in French and English so that they can go to the international market.
Right. And you speak of the international market, and I want us to just talk a bit about that as we move toward the end of this conversation. The aspect of hard copy versus the digital age that we are now jumping into. We've seen most bookshops still remaining filled up with those particular hard copies, but when you go to online, people are now wanting to read online as opposed to just buying that particular hard copy. Talk to me about how you're strategically placing yourselves not to be hurt by that issue of digitalization.
The digitalization is a good thing, actually, as far as I'm concerned, because soon we're going to be publishing books in apps, and then if print is out of the process, you can imagine a book that costs 6,000 will maybe cost 500. You can just, if you could pay, let's say, 500 on mobile money and access a book in an app just to read it, that would be a good thing, because most kids would read from their parents' phone or computers, and it will be very good for us. So I don't think it's a threat. It's just an alternative to print. So far, our print industry is still struggling because it's very expensive and the quality is not the best. So that could help a lot.
Dr. Kimonyo, the authors of the future, the publishers of the future in this digital age, what will they need to do to survive this particular market with digitalization coming in?
I think digitalization is a very good thing. As he said, first it widens the audience of the book, that's one thing. Also, it lowers the price. So already we are struggling with other platforms to get our book read. So if you can have this extra push is very important. But be careful also. There is a number of studies now that show that the book is holding up. The book, let's say the hard copy book.
Hard copies, yes.
They are holding up, meaning that even in mature market like UK or United States or even France, the sale of book is going up, contrary to what people have thought, let's say, 5 years ago. So we shouldn't bury the hard copy book yet. It's still there, it's still strong. And another thing also, there is finally also an attachment for books. Yeah. And I think that many people who, especially for a big book like the book that I write, and a bit difficult to read, it's maybe better to have it in your hand and read it slowly and slowly. So I think that the digitalization is very good, but we shouldn't also be kind of victim of a myth, and not seeing that also the hard copy book also is something that he has to stay.
Right. Yeah. The future.
The future of publishing is definitely going to be in the digital publishing, but also I think. When I'm talking about the future of Rwanda, a country where people haven't even been able to relate with the hard copy. I find it very hard for them to read online. But also, it depends on the kind of book. You know, if I was to read the research book, if I was to read a novel, if I was to read a motivational book, as a reader, as an avid reader, I would still read, you know, on digital and all that. But think about someone like a child of 6 years. They need the touch. They need to touch this book and you know, relate with it. They need to see the pictures and flip through and love it and have it.
I think a book is an experience. There is nothing beautiful than having a store full of books. You know, it's just
how do we make sure that we move away from just having them there as decor in our homes, in our studios, to things that are really helping and changing the lives of people as to how that author really intended that? Because this would be your closing thought. Probably as you answer that, you can also tell us about how can someone sustain themselves in just this particular field of book writing and book publishing.
I think it's all about pushing oneself to be the best in whatever you are doing. If you are communicating for the young audience, for the grown-up, highly educated intellectual audience, or the mass, you just have to know who you are communicating to and give the best of yourself. There is a part of ourselves in what we publish. So that is the key. There is a part of me in what I draw, in what I write, so I want to tell stories that I understand the most.
Right. Yes. Perfect. Tessie, I mean, moving forward, how do we even get the regional market, work with people from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania?
Well, I think it has already started. Sure. We have had a lot of interactions with it. Personally, I am a product of the regional market and the international market. I started publishing in 2008. With a Ugandan publisher, then I joined the Kenyan publisher, then I went to Oxford University Press until I decided to start mine. But that was the process of a Rwandan. And that is a process of every publisher in Rwanda. They have started from other publishing houses and learned and come back to implement.
So the future is bright.
So the future is bright. But now, the future is very bright, but we need a lot of other things to be put in place for that future to be for us to hold it, including...
One of them, you said the policy.
Yeah, the policy, but also the Rwandans, moving from the idea of feeling like books should be free. I think we have that tendency where people think that the government should buy books for their children and everything. People should just feel like books are the way you buy food and you buy clothes. You should clothe the brain of your child.
Right.
You should clothe your brain.
Right, you should clothe your brain. That's powerful. Dr. Kimonyo, the future for you. Where do we go from here? Talk to someone out there watching you tonight and says, I want to be like him. I also want to go through that particular journey. What would be your message to them in closing?
My message is writing is difficult. It doesn't maybe bring a lot of money per se, but it's very rewarding. Yeah. And one thing, second thing also, when I can see that we have people in the field, other people than writers, that are ambitious, that also are demanding for the standard that they want to put forward, I think that the future is bright. Finally, what we are starting to get on in is the idea that we can have good book produced in Rwanda, well written, well produced. Yes. And I think that's the way we are going forward.
Right, we're heading there. Yeah. I want to write a memoir about my 10 years in the Rwandan market, a country that actually built my media career. Any tips? Just one tip.
Just use your wit
Yeah.
and write. I'm sure it will be a very good book.
Bestseller.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Just make sure that I
Thank you.
publish
You will be the publisher. Now we already have a publisher. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank
for this
you.
great
Thank you so
conversation.
much, Anna.
All right, Sensa. Thank you also for watching and being a part of this conversation. We'll see you again right here. And thank you. My name, as always, is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye for now.
Our beautiful neighborhood you'll never want to leave. Located in Kigali's uptown neighborhood of Gatriro, Vision City offers different typologies ranging from luxury villas to the state-of-the-art apartments that make a perfect use of indoor and outdoor space to give you a mass living experience. Special offer of 60% off to apartments of 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms.